Oh, yeah, we are live. This is the lockdown episode number 2. Got my boy Jameson live in the studio with me. He's actually right across from me, uh,
Yes.
less than 6 feet apart. And we're here to bring you the hottest takes on the hottest topics, I guess.
During the hottest time.
It's so hot out. It's insane. It's so hot. It's not cold and cloudy at all. It's actually really hot out.
It's
So
gonna
yeah,
kill the virus. So
I know. I'm waiting for it to, I'm waiting for Donald Trump to pull up, grab the virus, and just throw it over the wall and get it out of here.
you gotta
We're
put it in the
gonna send
chokehold
it.
first.
We're gonna send it to Mexico, and then and then we're gonna send it to Nicaragua. I don't know why. I just don't like them.
Do you think I find his rhetoric always very interesting, right? We've never had a president that uses rhetoric like he does. Do you think
Right.
that helps or makes situations worse in a time like this?
Uh, I think the best thing to do right now is to just be quiet. If I was a president, I would just stay out of everything. I would just be like, here's these doctors. They're going to tell you what's up. And if you need something, come to the office,
Yeah. It
Just
is really I couldn't believe the when he was talking about how many views he gets for the briefings.
best ratings for the briefings. The
It's like,
best.
yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna want to watch to see what the president thinks. Get that information is kind of relevant to everybody's best interests. It makes no
It,
sense to
it,
celebrate that.
it's kind of a given that people need to watch what you're saying.
Yeah,
Best ratings ever. I don't know if it's me. It's probably me, but no one's gotten these ratings before. Seriously, the fake news is doing the best they ever have.
and it's crazy too because the networks really have been pretty bad at relaying the messages as well. It's
Yeah,
actually pretty hard to find any accurate info. And it's not even just on the virus, like it's even just situations around the virus. You can't even get real facts anymore.
it's all
It's all
like
alternative facts.
it's alternative. It's convoluted facts. It's what I call it, convoluted. It's a great word, isn't it? I have the best words. You know. So Bernie's out, dude. What do you think? Let's get to it.
Um, you know, it was bound to happen. I think it does suck that it seems two times in a row Bernie has been conspired against within the DNC. And I really would have wanted to see at least like 3 to 4 candidates make it all the way until the final, what is that, the DNC convention.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
so that there's some variety, and then you can actually have people go through the process, and then you can be really sure. So I don't like the fact that it's kind of just fallen into the lap of Biden, and it seems as if, well, and it's more than seems, it's pretty evident that they really just
Pretty
seen
apparent. Yeah.
they seen Biden as like the name brand and went with the safe choice, when I don't think that's going to combat well with someone like Trump, who is not the safe choice. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what people are looking for. And I don't see that. I don't think the Democrats get that.
Yeah. I don't. It's a shame, even though I'm not ideologically with Bernie, but I like to see someone that comes in and shakes up the system. And he was doing that, but at the same time, he just seemed kind of weaker this time around compared to
Yeah, he did.
2016. In my opinion, he was just a cuck. He was cucking so much for like the establishment, just because people in his cabinet were saying like, we should be exposing. Sorry, we should be exposing, Joe Biden's corruption and all these things. And Bernie's like, well, he's a moral guy. Let's not do that. So I'm just like, if you're not willing to attack corruption right in front of you, why should I
Yeah.
believe you're going to attack corruption throughout an entire country? And moreover, like foreign relations and trying to tackle all the corruption you have to deal with there.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Bernie this time around too is he was trying too hard to be anti-Trump. Like you said, he wasn't really saying anything bad about any of the other Democrats.
Yeah.
And if you look back at what made Trump win was he was literally firing shots at everybody. It really did not matter who was in front of him. And
Yeah.
I think in a situation like going up against Trump in debates, you need to be able to attack back because no one's really done that yet. And I think it would be interesting to see how he would respond to someone equaling that amount. I mean, it might be hard to equal the firepower that Trump puts forward, but at least, give it a shot. Don't be so passive. That's not going to get anywhere with someone like him.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. And Trump didn't win just because he attacked the Democrats. He
Yeah.
won because he was saying, look, you guys have been voting for the same Republican Party and they suck and they're not bringing you what you want. I'll be that
Yeah.
guy. Jeb Bush sucks. His brother sucks. Marco Rubio sucks. Ted
He's a
Cruz
fucking Zodiac killer.
Ted Cruz's dad killed JFK. Like this guy this guy was openly rattling off hilarious theories and people were kind of like entertained, and attacking your own party makes you much more popular within that
Yeah.
party because the base of that party wants what their party is representative of or what they think it should be representative of.
Yeah. And it's funny to me too because I think when the Democrats seen Biden, they looked at him as someone who could maybe fire back some shots, be with the whole like corn pop shit. Like they really think and like, oh, like I can do push-ups too. You want to do push-ups or you want to take this outside? Like they thought he was going to be that tough guy. But you can't be that tough guy if you're going to be. It sucks. It's nothing bad, but he's going to be stumbling over his words, and Trump's really going to jump all over that. And I also don't think that Biden really has it in him to go back and forth like that with someone who really is full 100% confident in themselves. Because I don't know if you've seen, but like when he's really talking to people like that, it's to people who are just in the crowd. He's never really talking like that to any of the politicians. So he usually feels like he's above them in some sort of way. So it's a little easier for him to do it that way.
Not to mention he's been in politics since he was like 18. What's an easier thing to attack than that? It's like you've been here for 60 years and you haven't done half the things I've done. That's something like Donald Trump could say, even though like
That's
we might
crazy
be
to think about.
Yeah, even though at the same time we might not think he's done something, incredibly beneficial, but the very notion that he can go, I pulled up in this thing. I tried once and I won because I'm a winner and my people are winners. And say what you want about Trump, but he doesn't belittle his base and his fans at all. When Joe Biden like gets some criticism, some valid, critique,
Yeah.
When his maybe not a fan, but a was saying, your son is involved in corrupt things. What are you going to do to mediate these situations? And then you listen here, fat. You want to do push-ups, fat boy? I'll fucking destroy you.
Yeah,
it's like, what does that have to do with my question?
And then what was it when he was surrounded by, like, I think it was those construction workers or factory workers? Was it construction or factory?
I think they were like union
guys.
Pipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were I think the guy, I don't remember the exact question, but I remember thinking his question really wasn't all that bad. Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah, it was about the right to bear arms, the right to own a gun.
That's right.
Yeah. And one of the workers, and not to mention a union in swing state, those are not the people you want on your bad side at all. Yeah. That's like the base for someone who is a moderate. No one else cares about you. People in California don't care about you. People in New York don't care about you. Guys who want to keep their health care through their union and see their wages go up, that's your base. Yeah. And one of them came to you with a valid question about, if you are the president, you have been very anti-gun in your rhetoric. What will you do to ensure that I get to keep the right to bear my weapon? And Joe was just like, I never said that. I never said that. And the guy was like, there's plenty of video clips of you saying that. And Joe Biden was basically saying, those are all fake videos. They're all just, clipped together and made up. Whether that's true or not, it could be that someone clipped his stuff together to make him look bad. What are you going to do to help save this guy's right to keep and bear arms?
Yeah, just answer his question. And to be fair, it didn't look good when Biden went up on stage with Beto that one time talking about how they were going to take the guns away. He straight up said it.
Yeah.
Or it was just set up there. So it's a valid question. There's no need to get upset about it. And then you look at the one where he's like, wow, 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 wow. Like, that wasn't a bad question either, bro. He just snapped on dude. Like, you can't just do that shit. Come on now. That's not reassuring, as I don't want someone like that in leadership. And then it's really, really sad, too, how upset people get. Like, I don't know if you have seen the backlash for someone like Joe Rogan, who said he would rather vote for someone like Trump over someone who has dementia like Joe Biden. And
that's
people
a hot
were pissed.
take.
Yeah. And then he was like, he said the next day, to be clear, I would vote for Whoopi Goldberg before I voted for Biden. This isn't like I'm endorsing Trump. And people still were shitting on him. And I'm like, it's a serious thing to be concerned about. You want someone to be coherent as your leader, to be able to reassure the public, especially during times like we're going through right now. And this is going to not just stop in a couple months. Especially economically, this is going to be a problem for the next couple of years. And we want to be able to be sure that we have a leader that can handle that. And I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I totally agree. And whether or not someone agrees with what Trump is saying, at least he can form a coherent sentence,
Yeah.
At least even if he speaks to the public in a weird and unorthodox way for a public representative to do, at least he can do it. Did you see that recent clip of Joe when he's talking on MSNBC? And he's basically saying, he's talking about like this whole virus situation. He's trying to kind of capitalize off of Trump, which would be smart if it was executed correctly. But it's not, because he doesn't execute it correctly. He's bouncing all over the place. He's using out-of-date terms, things that...
It says pandemic 17 to all the way 16, belittle the democracy and protect public health. And you're like...
Yep.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. You don't want to be in a situation like this and have to hear that. It's not going to be reassuring.
Yeah, exactly. If anything, it just makes you be like, is Donald Trump really that bad? I mean, it makes you look at things differently when the counter is Joe Biden.
Yeah, and it's frustrating from the standpoint, too, of, like I said, it kind of just fell into Biden's lap. And then also I'm kind of getting tired of, I haven't really been alive long enough to be able to really say this, but I know it's something that a lot of people say. They're getting tired of having to pick between the lesser of two evils. I know the two-party system in most cases is a little bit better than having, multiple, like 5 to 6 candidates all running up there at once, because that can take votes away from other people and blah, 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 blah. But it would be nice to maybe have a little bit more of a voice on getting more variety in there.
Yeah, tell me about it. And at the same time, I almost wish we had more of a parliamentary system in a lot of senses, in the sense that if I were to vote Libertarian and you were to vote Green Party, and both of our sides got 15%, so a 30% overall, then the Libertarians would have to go to the Republicans and say, we need to link up. The Democrats would have to go to the Green Party and say, we need to be a thing right now. Yeah. And them two there's more compromise within that. It's easier for a Libertarian and a conservative to find a healthy medium, the same as it's easier for a Democrat and a Green Party to find a healthy medium. And in other countries, especially, they have to create these factions within all of the parties.
Yeah.
So everyone's voice is heard. And that makes more sense to me than just, all right, you want lower taxes, but you also wish that, workers came first, but you have to vote for Republican because Democrats are going to raise the taxes.
Yeah.
And then, on the other side, it's like, oh, you're pro-choice, but you don't like all the kind of socially leftist policies, well, you have to vote for us anyways. So either way
Yeah.
you do it, you're kind of stuck in a um, lesser of two evils paradigm, and it's getting on my last nerves.
Yeah. And I could see that system bringing a lot more perspective into certain things. We need more compromises and less just blocking of ideas. Things shouldn't be having to jump into the courts for fucking 15, 20 years. Or even when something is made an amendment, you're still 50 years later trying to get it to go away. And that just, there needs to be a lot more compromises and things that benefit both sides so that when something is established, it can stay for a while. And if there is needed for change, they can talk about that too instead of just being so divided about it.
We're cucks. We're both centrist cucks. Well, wanting the best for the country and not wanting to play little child bipartisan games. You're a centrist big brain cuck. That's what people think.
I just want what's best for the people. That's it. I want to live a good life, and I want the people around me to live a good life so I can live in a good community and live in a good country.
Shut up, Hitler.
And also, I think that our interests should be put above, what's going on, say, in the Middle East. Like, we have communities here that are suffering, whether it be just fucking cleaning up the fucking water in Flint, but yet we're spending billions of dollars in other countries, like just shit like that. I want to hear more stuff like that from politicians, and I don't think we hear that enough.
Yeah, well, not to mention the opioid problem. How about we handle that?
Yeah,
we need to go, blow up Syria for when people in Ohio their sons are dying because they were on medicine because they were in pain. They couldn't afford it anymore, and then they got onto some harder stuff, and then they got onto heroin, and then they died. Like, that's a real problem we're facing here, and we're still talking about whether you should get $1,200 or $1,500. And it's like, give the people the stimulus package. I support UBI. I always have. And people think that that's like a socialist policy, but it's not. It's always been in free markets that people invest in a system, just like if you or I invested in a stock, we expect a return on our stock. So those, as shareholders, we have a right to have maximized profits, basically. And then it's the same thing in a system, in a government system that you're, one, not allowed to get out of unless you want to go to prison, and two, increasingly have no say over.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a good point, that it should be kind of like a stock. Because, I could see, like, let's say this was implemented 20 years ago and you were getting maybe $800 a month. If the country's been doing good economically. I mean, not as of in the moment, but comparison to, say, 50 years ago, it's continuously gone up. You can increase the amount of money in the whole entire community that, the communities that are built within the United States, they could grow. And I guess in a way that would be kind of like a trickle up economy. And I think the money should be going and investing should be going into the people. And then I think everything else would fall into place.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention, ever since, welfare policies and things like that have come into effect under the Great Society, you see a lot more resentment between the citizens in the sense that the 99% or whatever you want to call it, we're not rich by any means. Some are better off than others. And there's a lot of resentment between people that, they work and they pay taxes and then they see their money go to people who don't work. And that breeds a sense of kind of backstabbing. They feel backstabbed because I'm investing into this system and other people don't have to, but I have to pay for them. I have to pay for other people's healthcare here in California, say, Medi-Cal or whatever it's called. I have to pay into that, but I get nothing in return for it. So a universal basic income, it equalizes a lot of things. And, Republicans hate the, pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, income inequality. It's like, that's a real thing. Whether you think it's right or wrong, I think it a lot of it comes natural in the sense that some people provide more value, they get paid more, but that's a philosophical thing. The
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, if you don't want people in the streets selling drugs, if you don't want people killing themselves, you have to try to equalize things at least a little. Make people think, all right, if I were to lose my job tomorrow, it's okay because I've paid into this system and I'm getting money back for it. I'll be okay until I find a new job.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think we'll get closer to things like that. It is interesting to talk about things like that because when you really think about it, our system is really, really new. And I think sometimes it's a little ignorant to think that changes don't need to happen every once in a while because new problems arise. Things change around the world, whether it's technology or, other countries around you getting more powerful, or things like opioid crisis, or just problems that your system is causing, and you have to be willing to fix that and admit that, because there's a
Yeah,
lot of
and
things that get implemented that cause like the opioid, the war on drugs, or something like even like Vietnam, right? That split the country, that made a lot of people really upset. So, and we've learned from that. Like, I don't know if we'll ever see a situation like that ever again. So there needs to be progression. There needs to be changes as time goes on.
yep, I agree. And, we as people naturally, we don't like change. We don't like things that are happening too fast.
Yeah.
But a slow progression, and I don't mean progression in a left wing progressive, people always
Yeah.
get those mixed up, but a move forward to not be so stuck on ideological lines of free
Yeah.
markets versus, if you want UBI, you basically are okay with Joseph Stalin, right? Because that's not how the world is. The world is very, it's
Yeah.
very, to use a term that a lot of people also don't like, it's very fluid. There's,
Yeah.
it's more than a binary thing. See, I want to trigger everyone. People thought I was a right winger. I'm triggering everyone. It's a binary fluid movement. But as you and I are very similar in economics in the sense that we don't want full on communism because we clearly see that that hasn't worked very well. And we also don't believe corporations should be telling us every little thing in our lives. We want some
Yeah.
sort of mixture. And I think that as the automation increases, as not restrictions on immigration aren't changing much either in the sense of wages going up or anything like that. You need to start moving towards a mixed economy, more of a mixed economy. And if it was completely up to me, I would just be like, okay, take everything back to how it was when, there used to be a thing called a friendly society or like a friends of community, insert community here. Sorry to be all over the place. I just did a
There you
podcast. But people used to, in a localized way, pay into a kind of like a trust, and that money would go to everyone in that community getting the same doctor, the same healthcare. And doctors were actually so mad at this because they couldn't maximize their profits as much as they wanted to. But there was more of a negotiation between this community and this price for a doctor. And
Okay.
this was something that was completely private. It was like if you and me and a bunch of our other friends put all of our money into a Roth IRA and we wanted those profits back, it would be a completely private thing. There's no government involved in that. But we're bargaining and we're pooling all of our resources together to benefit a greater something greater than just yourself. If it was up to me, it would be like that. That's not really a thing anymore because, as we said in episode 1, communities die, and then pooling those resources together without resentment dies. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And just the world is moving faster than ever, and I think this time here, especially during something like this, we should just look at ourselves in the mirror and try to figure out what things are working, what things are not, and be realistic about it. Let's stop playing this oh, well, I may not like this, but this guy that's in my party likes it, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Or, this is what we've been fighting for years. I may be wrong, but, I got to keep going. I got to stick with the lie, or I got to stick with the bullshit. No more of that. Let's actually compromise, because as we can tell, doing this at this pace is not getting us anywhere.
Nope. It's bringing us even further back, actually.
Yes. Yes. Very much
right.
so.
That was a good little discussion.
Yeah.
What was I gonna?
Wait. So
you can bring something up. Shit.
Did you drink already?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I got impatient.
No, you're good. You're good. I wasn't even thinking about it, but I got my last beer, and it's a shock top.
Great. Just kidding. I got the classic, the Guinness. I already drank a little bit. Sorry about that. Salute to you, my friend.
Salute. I did want to ask you. So I don't know if it's necessarily an issue anywhere else. I just know that it's talked about a lot with Americans, that we're so closed in a box and we don't really care about the rest of the world and see their perspectives. And as someone who has been in Europe, very different countries in Europe, how do you think the way Europeans are, how do you think they will handle something like this in comparison to Americans?
Well, just like anywhere, it really depends on the nation itself. To collectivize Europe as like one cohesive thing is kind of.
Well, I wasn't doing that. That's what I was saying. You've been to like multiple different countries, so
right?
like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
could
yeah.
maybe speak on the different viewpoints, perspectives on the different countries, maybe.
Right. So what I would say is somewhere like a Scandinavian country. I
Okay.
feel that their bounce back would be a lot easier in the sense that they already have a sense of a collective. They're very collective people because it's a lot easier to trust your neighbors. And I know this is a very controversial thing to say, but someone that is your neighbor and their family has lived there for hundreds of years and so has yours, it's a lot easier for you to feel trust and less resentment in your neighbor in comparison to, and this is a tribal thing that people carry that we are actually moving past in a very, great way. And we're seeing that, okay, it's not all about if you were a Viking 500 years ago, but it is inherent that it's a lot easier for people in Denmark to want to help each other in a much less, I don't know how I would say this. It comes a lot more natural to people who understand each other completely, who share a similar culture, they share the same food, they share the same language. That's something that it has its benefits in the sense that you don't feel as resentful to someone who has shared a similar experience to you like that. So their bounce back would be a lot easier than compared to you or I, to in a similar sense, between you and I, of course, that we don't know our neighbors. We're we're still kind of stuck in that mindset of like, fuck them, I don't care. What about me and my family?
Yeah.
So, and I think there's good and bad in both of those things, because in America you still can be selfish. And I said that in this podcast, that whether I think it's a good thing to be selfish or not, which I don't, I think you should help your community out, but you have the right to be selfish. And that brings good and bad in the sense that you get to do with your resources what you want to, for the most part. You still have to pay taxes and all of that, but in a country in Scandinavia, you don't necessarily have that choice, but the resentment you would feel to someone is much lesser than here. And we're young, so we kind of understand. I'm willing to help people who I don't know. I'm perfectly okay with that because I believe that they should have the same opportunity as me, And that's also a very uniquely American thing, because other countries don't see it that way. You know, a lot of people think that just because a European country is socialist that they're tolerant, but a lot of them aren't, and
Yeah.
that's also an individual thing. You know, so just because a country is socialist doesn't mean they want everybody coming in and taking their shit, because those are my people. And that's still how a lot of people think, regardless of whether we see them as, oh, they have healthcare for everyone, they're so progressive. That's not what it is. They could have that for 50 years, but they only want it amongst each other. But their bounce back at the same time would be a lot smoother, in my opinion. You know, I might be completely wrong because I am American, but that's just what I get from when I visit these places. I see more social cohesion, and that is a tribal thing. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't,
Yeah.
but it's just a fact of life that you have to deal with. That people are different, and it's going to take a long time for people to see each other as more than just you know, a tribal thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
What countries have you been
doesn't
to?
mean, sorry to cut you off. I just want
Oh,
to
you're good.
clarify. It doesn't just mean or it doesn't mean a skin color. I don't, you know, people
Yeah.
always think, "Oh, white. You're white, so you must understand white." It's like, not really. A Bosnian
Mhm.
and a Serbian live next to each other, but they don't understand each other, or they meticulously force themselves to not understand each other due to a tribalism. It could be a religion. A black Muslim and an Arab Muslim will feel more sympathy to each other than just their racial groups, because
Yeah.
they share a similar morality and a similar doctrine. And the countries I visited are Sweden, Denmark, Bosnia, Croatia, Germany, um, Austria. I've been to a couple. I'm trying to remember my. I've been to a lot, to say the least, but I've been to mostly Eastern Scandinavian countries.
Okay.
But not all. I've never been to Britain besides the airport, but they share a lot in common with us in the sense that they're becoming more and more multi-ethnic and multilingual as a country. So they're kind of, as you've seen from the election, they're kind of just the other America.
Yeah.
Or where, you know, a lot of countries throughout Europe have populists since the election of Donald Trump. Like it or hate it, it's a fact of the matter. It's rising throughout Europe. Some people are scared of it. I personally think that there's become a lot of resentment is happening. And don't get me wrong, just because I'm European doesn't mean I'm accepted in a lot of parts of Europe, because I'm seen as a Muslim, and a Bosnian is not much different in the eyes of a lot of these people than a Somalian, you know? And
Yeah.
it's sad. It's a sad fact of life, but humans have that flaw in them, that they're inherently tribalistic and kind of scary in a lot of senses. But you kind of got to, like you said, everything comes with compromise. Not everyone can change their mentality. And some things
Yeah.
are just, you know, drilled. I don't think anyone is born evil, but it can be drilled into you.
Yeah.
Immoral things can be drilled into you.
And it's very true that, it is kind of funny that people, when they see or hear tribalism, they think more race, but like, you could even just not even really like somebody because they have a different car than you. You could be a
Yeah.
fucking Mustang driver and you don't like Camaro people. Like, it's as easy as that. You could be a football player and you respect people who've played football more than people who don't. It's just anything like that.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's easy to be like that. And I think it's even easier with the mentality here that we keep talking about. It's so individualized. It's, you're kind of going against the world to get your bread.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So, yeah, I could definitely see how, yeah, the Scandinavian countries could benefit from, the being there for so long, have actually knowing your neighbors. Well, I don't think that would be a bad thing to do anywhere. Just at least know some people around you, because then you can help somebody and then you can get it in return when you need it. And I think that's something that we've lost value in.
Yeah. And, you know, in my tribalism rant, I didn't even mention regional things. What about people from the Bay Area versus people from LA?
Yeah,
Your
shit
skin
like that.
color doesn't matter in that. It's like, you like the Dodgers, I like the Giants. Fuck you. You know,
Yeah,
if you're a Yankee and someone is a Red Sox, there's an inherent tribalistic warfare within your minds there. You know,
People fucking die from that shit. Like,
yeah.
people legit fight and people die. It is insane.
It's insane. It's so dumb. But it's something that I also think comes from that we don't feel a connection to the people around us anymore. So you have to find something that to fill that natural want. You want to fit into a group. And when that's kind of maybe not taken away from you, you can always find somewhere to fit in. But when that expectation has dropped to before in the 60s and 70s, it's like you went to church, that was your group. Now it's, I like the Lakers, that's my people, that's my group. And it's like a weird void that we try to fill as humans, you know? It's a weird want that we have, or maybe a need. I think it's probably a need.
Yeah, I mean, think about, like, it has to be a need, and it has to be it has to be biological, because there's no way you think back 1,000 years, 2,000 years, all the way to whenever the first humans were, like, the full humans were really walking around. None of them were going solo.
Right.
None of them were going 2, 3, 4, 5 people. You'd have to move around with at least 50. There's no way you survive if you don't have at least 50 people. And that sense of community gives us, it's safety. It's comforting, because we know at the end of the day, we got people watching our back. We're probably going to live longer, because we really are weak. I think we always think of ourselves as the top of the food chain, and we are, because of our mind and our technology. But you put us in front of most animals out there one-on-one, we are nothing. And I think, and that's always in the back of our head, we always need to feel that safety net of other people around us. That community is very important mentally. It just really is. And I could see too how with the social media shit, we find ourselves put in so many different circles. And that probably is what making a lot of people go fucking crazy right now. You end up trying to be different people all the time, just to fit in these boxes, so you feel even safer. And then as soon as you lose that, then you start panicking a little bit. And like you said, you know, it's either the sports teams or, you know, just the smallest shit. Fucking, oh, I like Pepsi, you like Coke. Like, people like, there's at least some people out there that get really upset about that. And it's dumb as fuck. But, you know, you go on any social media, there's fan pages, they argue with fucking, oh, your fucking artist sucks ass, or there's people arguing about who the fuck is canceled. You know, you're always trying to fit. People are always trying to fit in these boxes now, because we really are losing that, I think.
Yeah. And the greatest irony of like the internet bringing us all together is that there's groups for people who call themselves loners. Like, what's more ironic than that? Like, I hate everyone. I don't want to talk to people. Oh, I'm like that too. Oh, really? We should totally.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, and it's
let's have
funny.
A fucking incel party.
Incel, yeah, that's a great example, actually. The incels. Shout out to my incels out there. Turn up. What better time than now to be an incel? All right, I gotta use the bathroom real bad, dude. I'm sorry. I drank so much coffee. Say what you were gonna say real quick, though. I know. Don't tell them. Jeez, I always have to use the restroom.
Small bladder. It's all good. Go ahead.
It's called a strong bladder, and it's not good to hold. Did you know that? It's not good to hold.
You gotta hold at least 10 hours just to get it ripe.
And then it feels good. All right, I'll be right back. Sorry.
All right. You are listening to the Lockdown Podcast with Denny V and little baby Jameson. Now, I want you to imagine a world with peace. It may seem impossible, because it is. In these dark times, we have to be realistic. I'm just kidding. There's real people who talk like that. That's a real thing. It's really interesting. I hope everybody's doing good out there, man. Doing the solo shit's a little hard. If I had like a topic to talk about, let's see. Look around the room. How many of you guys been playing video games, man? Going crazy. Just sitting down for hours. You know, I was already spending probably a little bit too much time on video games as it is. God damn, motherfucker, I am doing that shit a lot now. Like, some days it's really half the day. Sometimes I can't even see after I'm done. My eyes are just gone. Might be toasted, but they're also gone from the blue light. Look at him hitting those moves. How elegant. It's fascinating. The moves they're just so precise.
Thank you, chef. I've been watching Hella Hell's Kitchen. It's so good.
Yeah, that shit's good. I've only seen a
Such
little
good
bit, but
show.
it's good. I really, I don't think cooking shows and, just like travel shows about food, I really don't think they get enough credit.
Hell yeah. It's like some of the best content out there. And it
And
just
chefs are some of the craziest people out there too.
facts. Oh,
Because to be a chef, man, you really gotta be confident in yourself.
and
And
you gotta be
there's
a
really
leader too.
you gotta be a leader. There's really hardly ever any margin for error, especially in your, 4-star, 5-star restaurants, fucking restaurants with the Michelin stars. Like, you have to be at least 99% and up perfection rate. Like, you cannot fuck
Yeah.
up the smallest of things, whether it's, oh, that crumb. See that crumb? That's unacceptable. It needs to be 1 centimeter to the left. Like, it's a crazy art.
I like the fine dining world because I know I'll never be part of it. So it's
I
like
couldn't do
really
it.
it's
I
really
couldn't
cool to
do it.
look at something that just watching it, I'm saying I don't even want to try this.
Yeah.
Not I can't handle this. I'm okay under pressure, but watching these chefs make sure every single part of that meat is the same color. If it's the same table and it's slightly off color and they order the same thing, you're redoing the entire thing because
Yeah.
that's like an insult to the table that one person's is like this, it's perfect and pink, and yours is a little more red. And all of these little details have to be in your head as you're behind a line with 8 other people screaming their times. And, every little detail has to be perfect. If you tell the chef 3 minutes and it's 3 minutes and 10 seconds, he's going to rip you apart. And it's like a real discipline. It's a disciplinary
Yeah.
art.
And some of them chefs, man, they put in hours like doctors do,
Yep.
18-hour fucking days. And they're moving too. You ain't
Mhm.
sitting down. Like, you're moving, you're probably walking. If you're doing an 18-hour shift, no way you didn't walk like 4 miles within that little kitchen.
Back and forth.
You
And you
know?
got to run to the freezer. And not to
Yeah.
mention, a lot of people think they just come and cook like these fine dining people. It's like they have to prep all their food and they have to bring in the food. And, a lot of people might think, oh, that's just in the show. But I've seen interviews and these guys are like,
Yeah.
no, what we did in Hell's Kitchen is what we're doing at our new place. The only difference is we're getting a good pay for it. So they have to bring in all their vegetables and cut them up perfectly 8 hours before the dinner service and
Yeah.
then
And you're
wash
not even talking about
everything.
the washing and the cleaning process is
Yeah.
taking just as long as anything else.
Yeah.
You got to make sure it's clean in there. You don't want to get the health inspector involved
No way. Not in these fine dining ones.
because that can really ruin your reputation as a restaurant.
Yeah. It's meticulous, all the detailing. If you have an eye for detail, that's definitely an industry to find yourself in. The pay is great. And I'm sure the experience is just incredible to be around people who, you know, they belong, world renowned, and they have the stars, and that's probably like an
Yeah.
incredible, industry. It's like if you're like a music producer and like Timbaland or Pharrell is like, I want you to come to the studio and work with me. Like, your
Yeah.
head would explode.
No, it is crazy. And man, like it depends on probably what you're cooking and how you're doing it. But some of them motherfuckers got to be ripped or something, man, because like I'd be seeing some people their way they're working the knives with the meat, like just doing that for hours, and then you're sitting over all those hot stoves, and you have to be sweating. That has to feel like a sauna in there. I mean, I'm sure as a chef, it's really easy to get fat, but if like depending on what you're cooking and how you're doing it, man, that's a good workout.
Absolutely. I could imagine. I bet they have like the same forearms as a roofer.
Fucking MLB forearms.
Yeah, exactly. That's just huge.
When I see a baseball player with those fucking forearms, like sometimes I see them, no way, either you're juicing or that's just not real. Like sometimes it's bigger than their bicep, bro, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
yo, you need to chill out. Looking
Right.
like Popeye.
Are you deformed?
Oh man, I remember, man, I had a couple baseball coaches that had some big ass forearms. And like it's just crazy to think, man, you're not even in the MLB and you got forearms like that. Like
that's from 20 years ago.
yeah.
But I've noticed like forearms are definitely a grown man thing. And I don't mean like
Yeah.
me or you grown, like 20 or 20s or whatever. Once you're in your 50s, it's like dad forearms are insane. It's like, why are they so big?
Yeah. They got the fucking belly, but their arms just look toned. Just
pushing a lawnmower. That's it.
Lifting up beer cases
over the shoulder to the barbecue. Seriously. Yeah, just like with my dad too. He's chubby as hell, but well, not as hell, but he's got a belly, you know. But the dude's forearms are huge.
Well, your dad be lifting. He'd be lifting,
yeah,
huh?
It's definitely from what we do, but yeah, that motion for 30 years with your wrist, I'm sure your forearms get, huge. Mine have already gotten bigger and more sore just from the job I do. It's insane.
Yeah, my job kind of just keeps me fat, so.
You still doing the thing with the people?
Yes.
How does that keep you fat? You're not running around anymore?
I mean, so I do after school for the people who are listening. It's for middle school. We do get active sometimes, and it's nice because I used to work with elementary school students, and you couldn't really play sports with them because, yeah, if you're playing soccer, if you're gonna slide tackle one of them, their whole leg is gone. If you throw a football with any kind of speed, they're losing an eye. Things like that. But with these middle schoolers, I get a little bit more active, but you still have to follow procedure and teach them certain curriculums, and you can't always get outside. So that's probably what it is. And then, I don't work necessarily close to home either, so I find myself a little bit more on the road. So that makes me eat a little bit more as well.
I love how
it is on me. I could do a lot better. It's definitely on me.
I love how we talk about our jobs like we're in the CIA. Like before you brought up what you do, I was like, so you're still doing that? You're doing the thing with people, right? You're still doing that thing. They're not having you run around anymore.
It's good to have your privacy,
Yeah.
Because you never know. I mean, right now we're not big or nothing, but
you're gonna get doxxed, bitch.
In 2 years, you never know.
Yeah.
And I always keep that in my mind. And, my girlfriend kind of gets upset sometimes about how certain things, I won't post on social media or whatnot. And I understand it. But at the same time, I don't want everything that I do to be up there. And I think it's important to keep some things to yourself, especially nowadays, how that's really becoming hard to do.
Yeah, you have to be like a public figure. Everyone wants to be a public figure. Why is that a career choice?
Public and you shouldn't really want to do that.
I know. I don't get it. And I get the hypocrisy in the sense that, oh, you're making a podcast. You want clout. It's like, well, yeah, I like to entertain people. If I could do stand-up comedy, but still have some privacy, that's what I would do. So, okay, there's a podcast. I can do my stand up on a microphone with no crowd and be in the complete privacy of my home,
Yeah. Just because I'm doing some sort of entertainment for people doesn't mean that those people have a right to be in my life. This is
Right.
supposed to
Yeah.
be just like any other job. You want to be able to go to work and then you want to be able to come home. You need those things to be separate if you want to be at least a little sane
Yeah.
in this current
Yeah.
environment that we live in.
There's too much clout chasing. And there's too many spots for clout. We need to put a cap on how many people can be public figures and how many people can be influencers.
Yeah.
We need to be like, all right, 30 person maximum. Only 30 people can be like Gary Vaynerchuk. We can only have a handful of people doing entrepreneur videos, to sell you false hope. That's what we need to regulate that.
I'm
people
in my
like,
garage.
yeah. We can only have a couple Ty Lopez's a year. We can't handle too many because everyone's a day trader now. Everyone has Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's a good bit.
It'll be interesting to see how over the next coming years that will affect things economically, especially what's going on now.
Yeah.
Are we going to see more of a transition to people being more, maybe you are doing 3 separate things to get you 3 separate incomes and you're not doing any of them full time. Like you said, it's the day trading, the Bitcoin, and then maybe you have something else on the side. Or are we going to see people who are like, hey, this pandemic showed the flaws in my job security. Maybe we should have either better policies or the people themselves will just force jobs to give more job security. So will we see maybe more people going to more full-time, but then maybe working a little less, like maybe 35 hours instead of 40, things like that. It'll be interesting to see how all this technology shit with, because I bet you after this too, more people are going to be working from home.
Yep.
So
and just everything's going to be teleconference. It's like, what do I need to be in an office with 30 people for a meeting when we can all just Zoom, invite me on Zoom. I can be on my phone and I don't have to be around people like that, which there's good and bad because there's so much tradition that comes with, getting dressed up, going to your job, finding a spot and making your way around the office and the cooler and all that, Monday morning quarterbacking and all that shit. But at the same time, like I said, this thing will make everyone look at the world different,
We've been living in a dream. It's really been a while since we've had a crisis where it's really going to affect the entire country. And I'm not necessarily economically, like this is something that people are physically scared for, it's more than just say what went on in 2008, with the recession.
Right.
And, and you could talk about maybe, being scared with like 9/11 and the wars going on in the Middle East, but that for the most part was in the Middle East, except for what happened with 9/11. And we don't know how long this will linger for. So this is a wake-up call to show us that we are vulnerable. We're not as safe as we might think we are.
And I don't know if it's just you, but or me rather. Why am I speaking for you? Look, I don't know if it's just you, but some of us, no. I don't know if I don't know if it's just me, but I'm still kind of I'm not used to this. I'm looking at my calendar and I still have to be, month or two. This is so weird to me. I'm organizing around the weekend like it's any different. Like, I don't understand. I think it's just because I was in such a pattern from when I finished high school to now, to where the slightest, not the slightest, but the biggest inconvenience like this, it's taking me time to adjust to. And I'm still not really there yet. I'm still really trying to be like, it's 6:30. I have to get up. But why? you know?
Yeah.
What for? What am I supposed to do? I don't have to drive and go to my job. You know, I don't know. It's something that's going to be really weird to get back into the flow into.
Yeah. It really is. I mean, just think how different life is from just say 50 years ago. There was a lot of people who were struggling in this country, to, hey, maybe I won't have food. And, that's becoming less and less common. And, of course we have issues with homeless and we need to fix those. But I think right now, before all this happened, it really was the best time to be alive. We probably right now the highest life expectancy. Um, for the most part, people have good, access to medical supplies that can. Medical, of course, is the best it's ever been. It's interesting. It really is because it really felt like we were somewhat invincible,
Yeah.
especially here in the United States. Especially here in the United States.
Yeah,
we like
we
Go
live
ahead.
very luxuriously. As weird as it sounds, as much as there's like this underlying class conflict and the 1% versus the 99%, and there is things of course that need to be worked on, but for the most part, a lot of people like myself included, I'm not going to leave myself out of it. I live a much better life than most of the people in the world. And
Yes.
that's something that, it's very weird to think of that on a Friday night, I can get dressed up and I can go get some sushi that'll cost me a good amount of money, but I'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's like, it's a total blessing. And like you were saying, there really is no better time to be alive. And I think that this was a real reality check for people. And, something that a lot of people go through every single day is you can't congregate in groups, because a lot of countries don't allow that in a weird, I know it sounds really weird to us, but
Yeah.
even going out at certain times, there's curfews in place in other countries because the state is so, you know, dictatorial. They're totally authoritarian, and this kind of makes you really appreciate that little sliver of freedom that we still have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people live like this all the time, and we I am very privileged. Like, I'll use the word, I'll trigger the conservatards, I'm very privileged in the sense that I don't worry about my next meal. And that's
Yes.
something that's also very new to humans,
And I think it's okay to say, the privilege it was a privilege to be born into the life that you have, or
Right.
you were blessed, right, to be put in this position, and there's no doubt that you were born into a better situation than some other people, right? There's always someone who has it better than you, right? But then most of the time there's also someone who has it worse than you. And that should be humbling. And just to be clear to everyone listening, we're not speaking on everybody in the United States. Obviously, there's a lot of issues here, and there are a lot of people who are going through some really bad shit that is probably comparable to what's going on in other countries. We can't hide that fact, but with for the most part, most people in the United States have it a lot better than everywhere else. And there was this mindset that we could handle, we're the fucking United States. We can handle anything that comes at us, right? And right now, that's putting flaws in that,
Yeah.
that logic.
Yep. It's like unreal. I still don't feel like this is reality,
Yeah.
but it's definitely humbled me and put my life into perspective and made me a lot more thankful. Regardless of, sure, I don't have a yacht and I don't have 3 houses, but I don't need that.
Yeah.
I loved being able to hang out with friends and going to the bar sometimes and going to eat something like really delicious for a great price. And it's really changed my perspective on how I need to start seeing the world. Because I was definitely living pretty bougie, and I'm the richest poor person in Folsom. I've said that before. But I'm definitely going to start prioritizing things in a different light, you know?
Yeah. Kind of want, like I was saying in the last podcast, I do want to get away from living so close to everybody. I think another thing that I hope a lot of people will do, that didn't make sense what I just said. I think a lot of people after this will be
Considering.
looking forward to maybe reconnecting with the earth a little bit more. We've become too reliant on the things around us, and we should be more comfortable with the environment around us. I think, we're so new into this land, we haven't really fully appreciated it yet.
That's a good point. I do agree. I can hope for it. I don't know if it'll happen because we've already put ourselves, we understand our standards as people, and we don't want those standards to be lessened. And
Yeah.
the funniest part is our standard of living as Generation Z and millennials is actually lower than our parents. But at the same time, this has shown me that just because my life may not be as perfect as it could have been, that means nothing, because the health of people around me is more important than anything. And the opportunity to live such a nice life for me personally, as I see it through my eyes, maybe some people look at your life and my life and they're like, wow, how do they live like that? These people are peasants,
Yeah.
But I personally, like, I'm just content, dude. Like, I couldn't be happier with the hands I've been dealt. I don't know if it's God. I don't know if it's a blessing. It absolutely is a blessing, but the luxuriousness of the normality. I'm very, like, I'm seeing normal now as a luxury, and not a lot of people around the world get to see it that way. I'm seeing how my life was a month ago, 2 months
Yeah.
ago, as a luxury. Like, wow, I got to go to the skate park. I got to hang out with friends and catch up, and I got to go wherever I wanted to eat. That was like, damn, I'm on top of the world, So
Yeah.
this has been as much of a setback as this is. I really hope people come out on the other side much more grateful and much more appreciative of the things they have.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're and it's kind of been interesting to see too how many people have been downplaying the amount of people that have died. They're like, oh, only 10,000 have died. Come on. It's really? Like, this is all happening all at once. You got to feel at least something, because you know how quickly this shit can spread. Is it really worth downplaying it? I would be, I'd rather be overreacting than be underreacting, because then at least you can eliminate something. So I don't know. I think right now we're starting to see that we're showing a lot of lack of empathy in the United States. It's kind of played out to this point. I know a lot of people are getting tired of it.
Yeah, for sure. And in my personal podcast, I am a bit ironic, and I'm kind of edgy about things, but just the very notion that something is attacking us, and it's not it's not other people, it's not another government, it's actually
It's not your mistakes, right?
right,
It's not like
yeah,
car accidents.
it's not something you can change either, and that, I think, that's the scariest part of this whole thing.
Yes.
It's that it's totally out of your control, and
Unpredictable.
yeah, that's a great word for it. That's what it is, because, and just like you said last show, everything that's coming in is completely contrary to what we've been told. Every day something new is breaking, and it's going to be really hard. It's going to be tough to see what the truth about this whole thing will turn out to be. And this will be in history books as the COVID-19 crisis of the 20s decade or something, you know?
Yeah, this shit could really last a long time. It could be something that lingers for hopefully not for a whole decade. That would be crazy, but yeah, 2020 is definitely to go down in the record books, and I'm really interested to see too how it affects our election. Does it maybe get to the point to where they have to postpone that?
Mm-hmm.
Does Trump become the first 5-year term president? How many more things get put on pause? If we continue to lock down and it continues to spread still, even despite that, how many more people say die because they can't get their cancer treatment or they haven't been able to get their medication and they die from complications because of their disease that they have? Or, person with diabetes couldn't get their insulin. And that hydrochloroquine, my mom takes that medication for her arthritis, and she was just told by her doctor she can no longer get that medication because of everybody buying it out, and there's a shortage of it. Now, how much you think like that's going to happen? A lot with not just that one. Of course, that one's going to be the main one because that's the one they're touting as the cure essentially for COVID. But there's going to be a lot of people, especially people with money, who are going to be scared in a situation like this, and they're going to buy a whole bunch of supply in a certain thing, and that's going to create problems for a lot of people. And I just really hope that those consequences of those shortages don't get out of hand.
Yeah. Besides just medicine, what about basic supplies? Advil is sold out,
Yes.
Over the counter stuff is sold out. Masks are sold out. These little precautions that you can take if, you're coming onto a fever, there's no direct medicine to you that's going to help you out in that instance. And that's something that is also very horrific to a lot of people, because not just that, but China controls most of the medicine that we have available to us. Who's to say that, we don't push the wrong buttons and they don't, yank all that production and say, well, if you're not going to comply with us, well, there's your health, and I hope our leaders also see that this would be a great time to bring back American production in a lot of things.
Yes.
And to bring back that work. And yes, you might have to pay people a little more than a child labor wage, to get these things to the people. But ultimately, is it better to sacrifice an entire country's health for the bottom line of profiteering, or is it better to have your populace be a safer and with good health also comes benefit to the state? I don't see why they don't see that. A healthy population means a working people. A working people means tax revenue. Tax revenue means whatever they want to do with it. I don't see how, they don't see it the same way as someone like you or I, but I guess, they know what's best for us.
It's all about the margins.
Yeah.
That the corporations are saying I can save fucking 5 cents a shirt if I make it over in China. And I think it's not going to have to. See, the thing is, too, is they'll always say, oh, we as a people got to change. Well, it's the people at the top, too, that got to change. The corporations have to realize it's okay to sacrifice some money because in the long run, it's going to be better for everybody. And it's not just going to be about your margins. Your margins may be good right now, and maybe you can get some compliments from your stockholders for the next couple of years. But what's that going to do if your company is not going to be there in 10 years because you are not able to ship half your fucking supply because China decides one day to cut off it, and then you're not able to keep going as a company? And if your main base is in the United States, then you don't have to worry about crap like that. And I also too, in a situation like a pandemic, it would be nice to not have to have so much shit coming from the country that it started in.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm tired of being lectured by, it's like when Leonardo DiCaprio criticizes the population for not doing enough to stop climate change, but his carbon footprint is more than you, me, our parents, our family all put together. It's like the message is there, dude. What you're saying is there, but you're not executing it. And that's the same thing our government's doing. We're being criticized as a population for, our actions, but at the same time, you have the ability to incentivize things that we do and you're not doing it. Oh, they get a I see a lot of people on the right wing, the Republicans, they say, the population of native born Americans is going down. So that's why we need to have people come in with work visas and drive
Yeah.
wages down. But at the same time, you're not incentivizing people that if you have 2, 3 kids, we're going to cut your tax rate. We're going to
Yeah.
let you have a tax benefit. We're not going to take away your money
Yeah.
because you need to raise your children. You can't just disincentivize people and then be angry when the logical conclusion of that happens. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And I get why they want work or programs, Of course, if you bring in some guy from India to work, he's going to work for cheaper. If I was a business owner, I would say, who's going to work the cheapest for me? I got money
Yeah.
to make, and I would pick the person who works for the lowest price. But
Yeah.
are you willing to sacrifice not only the physical health, but the emotion or not the economic health and the economic impact that your citizens will be providing you? And I don't think
Yeah.
they are. And I think they're gonna keep playing with, marginalizing us and keeping us down and keeping our standard of living as low as possible to help that bottom line. And I think that's not what free markets do. And it's a shame that the corporate state has come in and totally taken control over what it means to be a productive member of society.
Yeah. And the country obviously needs to be more self-sufficient, and I think that can be said about us as well. You see the panic that happens when we can't go to a store to get what we need, just our basic things that we need to survive. It would be beneficial to everybody if we started looking into, hey, maybe I shouldn't have to worry about the government shutting down because of something happening and now I don't have power. Maybe I should have solar panels, or maybe I should have a garden in the back just in case I can't go to the store because it's shut down. Then there wouldn't be so much panic because you're actually taking care of yourself. And then that panic won't kick in for most people. And then, of course, there's going to be the people who don't do that. And then maybe there'll be a little bit more supply because now you're not rushing to the store to take everything. Because if everybody just had some simple fruit, some simple vegetables in their backyard, and then you had your power completely free because you're taking it from the sun. You have an electric car, maybe, and I'm talking about in the future. You can plug into the same power that you're getting from the solar panels. You don't need gas, and you could pretty much live at least with half the things that you need completely from yourself.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what you're saying, but the sad part is that how do we do all that when we can't afford a house? We don't
Yeah.
have the resources and the I hate to overuse this word, but it's such a great word. We don't have the incentive to do any of these things because
We're too dependent on
a
other people. We gotta just go
yeah,
build those motherfucking houses ourselves.
yeah. Oh, wait, you want to build a house? You have to run it past us. You have to run
Yeah,
it
see,
past the
that's
state.
ridiculous.
You have to run it past feds. You have to get the right codes and compliances. So, oh, you want the land? You have to run that by us. You
Yeah,
can't build that here. There's a lot of red tape you got to cut through to do anything to be self-sufficient.
things like
And
that gotta change.
yeah, Become libertarian and join me. Just kidding.
There's
That party is a joke.
there's a lot of things that the government does that really does kind of take away that idea of freedom. And you really see it here in California a lot. Going back to say the housing situation, if you really, you could hire a a really good architect with certified contractors who have every single license they need, but and it could be a perfectly good structure. Nothing's going to happen to it. We could withstand the earthquakes here in California. But if maybe your neighbor 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away, that doesn't even see it outside their window, says, I don't really like the aesthetic that it's bringing. I think it's going to bring the value of my house down. And then California really takes that seriously instead of you having your own property and being able to make what you want. Now, it's a different story if you made a fucking house that looked like the shape of a dick. That would be like, okay, let's have a conversation about why you shouldn't do that. But, if it's a perfectly good structure, it's not bothering anybody and it's on your land and it's not putting anybody else in danger, whether it's, it's too close to my house, our fire's here, it could potentially burn down my house if your house gets on fire. Like, I get that. But if it's not going to cause any of that shit, why the fuck does it matter? It's your land. You purchased it.
Yeah, exactly. Because we think we own everything, but we don't own anything.
No.
How do we own something when a power can come in and take it by force? You don't own anything. We think our parents own their houses. They don't. What if the government said, "Oh, we need this because we're going to build another Walmart. So here's your money and fuck off." And they have the power to do that.
Yeah.
We don't own anything. We think we do.
They'll come in with that bulldozer and knock down the house while you're sitting in it.
Yep, exactly. And we don't. If I owned a plot of land and I wanted to build something on it, whether that be houses, multifamily housing, I have to run through everyone to do that. And it's like, I went through the process to buy the land. Do I even technically own it? I can't build what I want on it.
Yeah.
It's just it really puts into perspective that we don't have as much control as we think we do, and as the kind of the talking points and the agendas tell us that we have. I don't know if that made sense.
And we're not saying that there shouldn't be any safety regulations, of course, when it comes to building. You, if anybody, knows that there needs to be certain precautions taken every time you're building something. But it does get a little crazy. I'm sure you run into it sometimes where you really don't see an issue with how, say the flooring should go in or just something, a structure going up, but yet you can't do it for some really illogical reason.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just that, regulations and a representative of the state that you're building in has to come in. It's just that things change and how people want their house changes. People want in more industrial looking things now. People want their beams exposed. All of this has to be taken into consideration. What kind of regulation helps if the regulation is 50 years out of date? It's just like with fashion. Housing changes. What people want changes. People want brick. People want to see their posts and their beams, and they want their house exposed. And if you have the criteria of a 1950s suburban house, those regulations are going to be very hard to comply with to bring someone the final product that they want,
Yeah. And if you do have a house and say the person building it's like, I think this will work, but there is potential for it to collapse, and you could, die. And I think you should also have the right to choose. You're fine with that. Yeah. And if you fucking die, you die. And if you say hurt anybody in the process of that, then you should be held responsible. But, that's your choice. And I think we've kind of run away from having the choice in that. And it's fucked up. Like, oh, you want to have the choice to potentially kill somebody, and it's like that's not the point because most of the time that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, all of the choices we make have potential to kill somebody.
Yes.
If I drive my car, I have the potential to kill somebody. That doesn't mean that I have the right to travel taken away. Just because that instance can happen in a hypothetical sense. Just
Yes.
because owning a gun means you can kill someone doesn't mean that nobody should be allowed to own it, because the same people that tell us you can't own a weapon to defend yourself, they don't like the police either. uh what line of defense do I have if someone were to violate me, violate a woman, violate the property I stay in, than myself? I don't get it. Everything is
Yeah.
totally flip-flopped. Whether you believe gun restrictions should be a thing, whether you believe you should own a machine gun, just the notion that you can't defend yourself, you don't have the choice. That is an authoritarian. What is more of a dictatorship than that? The only difference that we have now is that people tell us, no, you do have the right to do that. It's just not in practice. It's not in reality that it's a
Yeah.
thing. And the only difference between a government like ours and a government like North Korea's is that North Korea's is more honest with them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not conflating our country with North Korea, because I still think America is definitely one of the greatest places ever. And that's because we had founding fathers who had a vision of people staying out of our lives and giving us these luxuries of defending yourself. But when people are actively trying to take that away from you, it makes you really see that, okay, maybe these people don't want the best for me. Maybe they want the power to do whatever they want to me.
And then those politicians feel as if they need to do that for, re-election or just because somebody really simply told them to. It is a very interesting system that we live in.
Yeah, have you noticed that to get reelected, it doesn't even matter what the people are saying. You kind of
No,
just
hell
have to
no.
go along with the agendas of the corporate lobbyists and the private donors. And, you know, if you, and that also kind of exposes the whole idea that we live somewhere where our votes matter.
Yeah,
Like,
they'll easily manipulate the people who don't agree with them into agreeing with them, some form, some way.
yep, it's about who controls the agenda. That's all it ever is.
All right, let's talk about something a little bit more positive. Trying to think.
Well, I have something positive. I mean,
Okay.
it's sad, but it's better. The expected death rate from coronavirus, it was 240,000, and now it's down to 60,000. I think that's
Yes.
something good to look forward to.
And it is annoying that the people will see that and then be like, "See, it wasn't that serious." And I was
Oh,
like, "Well, it's
come
not.
on.
It wasn't. It didn't get up to 200,000 because we took action into preventing it from getting
Right.
there. That's a good thing." What were you gonna say if it got to 200,000? Oh well, a million people didn't die, so it's not that big of a deal. So there's no winning. So I just hope as little amount of people die as possible, and we keep going strong and continue to find at least some common ground and compromise. Because goddamn, it's really growing old, and you can see day by day people are growing frustrated because of what's going on.
Oh yeah, people don't have any. They're scared. We
Yeah,
don't even have what you have in your bank account now is what it's going to look like for 3 months. And a lot of people, unless they can have some of their payments deferred for now and everything freezes, it's not looking good for a lot of people.
they're
And
gonna have to do a second stimulus package.
yeah, all of this government bureaucracy is taking way too long. It really is.
Yeah, you have the big egos on it's both sides. It's like, oh, you put that in there, yeah. So we're not gonna do the stimulus package. Fuck that. Fuck
Yeah.
you.
It's
We're
like
not doing it at all.
just because you guys are millionaires and you can live fine how you are, it doesn't
Selling your
mean.
fucking stock to profit from this
Yep.
pandemic.
Yep. How about that? Senator Burr, Senator Loeffler, Miss Feinstein. Seriously? And nothing's going to happen to them.
SMH.
And I said that in a show. I said nothing's going to happen to them. That's the worst part of it all.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen. And I think Americans are growing tired of that as well.
Yep.
Because it seems as if we do the smallest of offenses, you can be fucking thrown in jail for speeding if they really push the issue. But someone does something
Yep.
like that where it not only affects the image of the government and it shows a little bit of corruption, but it hurts people as well because that's taking away, money from the economy, the stock market, and they're putting it in their pockets. And that just, with the stocks, that's a downhill effect. People start taking their money out, start profiting, and then there's no money in the economy anymore.
Yep. And that's how a lot of this started is the market crashed. Once market crashed, there's no consumer confidence. People are scared to buy. People are scared to buy into, boost these companies up. And then the government comes and offers them a little handout. And that's your free market for you, buddy.
And then the stock market goes up, and then they're like, oh, see, the economy is doing great. It's like, no, the economy, that side of the economy is doing very well for you guys.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who will say that America kind of has two different economies, right? You have the stock market, and then you have everything else. And in a way, the stock market is its own thing. Not everybody's, a part of that. I guess the stock market goes down all the time, but if people have jobs and they're going to work, the economy is going to be fine.
Yeah, not to mention all of the money's fake anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like how good really are we when we can lose all this money and the Fed just says, all right, we'll just print some more and we'll boost it up for a little bit. So don't worry too much. Keep paying your mortgage payments. You'll be fine. And people are like, am I going to pick between living here or having something to eat?
Yeah. All right. Something that's not political. What food do you miss the most?
Well, we're still not at the point where we can't pick up, but I'll say somewhere I miss sitting down and having a meal is a sushi spot that me and my girl love.
Okay.
I miss it.
Are you still able to get? They're still open?
Yeah, but sushi's not something I like doing to go. I like when it's just right in front of me, super fresh. That there's nothing better.
No, I feel that.
Yeah, but for the most part, we're just cooking at home. Maybe grab some Del Taco if it ever comes down to it.
Is there a place that it's not food that you can no longer go that you miss going to?
Yeah, I mean the gym.
The gym?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing for me as well.
I'm not like a fitness bro, but I do miss, being able to go in, do my little workouts and feel better. But luckily there's a nice little trail over here, so I'm free to walk around for now until I get a ticket for doing that. But yeah, mostly the gym. I don't really go to the club and stuff like that.
I haven't really been leaving the house or trying to do too much like DoorDash or anything like that. So, I'd say one of the biggest things I miss is being able to go to coffee places. Yeah. And I mean, it's just kind of a different environment in a coffee shop. There seems to be that energy of productivity or, everybody's just, they're up in there. No one's down because they got fucking coffee in them in there. I kind of miss just being in that environment, even if it's just me picking up the coffee and being in there for a couple minutes. It's very interesting to, whether you're talking to the baristas or talking to the people there, there's always different conversations going on. And I'd probably say another thing is just school, being that I work in a school, and then I also go to school. I don't really necessarily miss like extra school work and shit and whatnot, but it is different. And I know it's really hard for some of the kids that I work with, some of their at-home life isn't the best, and I'm sure this time is very difficult for them as well. That's kind of another thing that a lot of people don't think about. So, I'm just thinking about them and wishing that they can get the escape of school sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to mention just their ability to bond and be with friends, and that social practice that comes along with school. That's more important than anything for these youngsters.
Yeah, social development is very important.
Exactly. People think
especially today.
Yeah, exactly. People are thinking, they just need to be in there to learn. It's like, there's more to learning than learning about history. These kids, they need to be able to learn how to speak to each other and understand and empathize with each other and their, emotions. And, like you said, more than ever now, these kids are probably on their tablets all day. Unfortunately, I'm sure more than anyone that a lot of parents don't seem to be as active in these kids' lives as maybe past generations were. Hopefully future generations too, but a lot of these kids, that's the only time they get to play outside and get some air is recess.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad too to see. I don't know. Do you remember OCS, on campus suspension? You'd be sent away for a little while away from class. There are some kids who will deliberately do that. They will intentionally get Saturday schools.
Wow.
Because it's literally being at school is a lot better for them than being at home. They get that social interaction, and I'm sure some of them really do value that. But then also, they might get food at school, whereas they're not getting that at home. It may not be the best food, but it's probably better than what they're getting. They might not even have anybody at home, and they could be at home by themselves all day because, there's a lot of parents too that they're working those blue collar jobs that require them to put in the extra work. They may not be fairly compensated for it. And as a result, the lifestyle that they're living isn't the best, and they're not able to probably raise their kid as much as they would like. So yeah, being at the school I work at, it's very important that with those kids are around, not only their peers and they can socialize, but it's also very important for them to be around other adults not other adults, but they're around adults that have their best interest in mind. And so I keep thinking about those kids and just really hope they're getting through this, and hopefully that we can learn from this, and maybe those parents too that, you sometimes worry about, they can step up a little bit and see that there are greater things than working extra but then again, some of the times that they are working extra, it's not really a choice. So I'd like to see some of those things change.
Yeah, nicely said. That's true. What else we got? I'm slow today, dude. I talked about so much on my podcast.
Plug it again.
Uncivil Discourse Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. That's that.
Yes, sir. I got to start getting my shit together. I don't know. I feel like I never know what I want to talk about, and I get too much in my head about it. Yeah. So that's why I really like podcasts and being able to do it with other people, because I find myself to be more observant, and I like the interaction, because then that way I have things to say. Like I'm not very good at talking with myself. I have to maybe get questions from other people, and then when they're talking, I gain other ideas, and then I can elaborate on those, and then that leads into a different conversation, and I feel like I'm better at that than speaking by myself. So, but if you want to check out my YouTube channel, it is JMSN, Jameson, your boy. There is a shoe review up there, a couple of unboxing of some other clothes as well. Teddy Fresh, it's a good clothing brand. Check it out. More videos like that as soon as I get my bread back up and the economy is in full swing and I can actually afford to buy things again. But yeah, I did want to do like videos of just kind of talking about the quarantine, I guess, more from like just a standpoint of, telling it just me, just talking about it. So, kind of going into the mental things that are going on with it, and maybe do some research on it and talk about how other people are dealing with it. Maybe start doing that like every week or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like a weekly update type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, what's funny about me is what you were saying about doing a duo podcast is like the opposite with me. I feel like I'm super awkward on duo podcasts. Like, you know, when
I
I'm
don't think
on,
that at all. I think you're doing just fine.
thank you, man. Likewise. But when I'm by myself, I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm a psychopath. I'm a little retarded, all right? But when I'm by myself, dude, I'll just sit in here and rattle for an hour. And some of the funniest things come to my mind. But when I'm doing like a me or you, or me and you rather, I'm just much more really taking in what you're saying because I don't hear a lot of people's other opinions, especially now that, the only thing available to watch is like CNN, MSNBC, Fox. It's like I already know everything they're saying. I want to see what other everyday people think. And unfortunately, not everyone has a podcast, so there's only so many things you can hear and kind of understand the feeling of what they're going through with. And a lot of these guys are famous, so they're totally not in tune with me and you. And yeah, it's not their fault. A lot of them are like from the ground up, just like you and I. But I hope what people take from these conversations or our solo work is that we don't live better lives than you. We might, but in the sense that we're not millionaires, we're not rich, we're not famous, we're just everyday people who are struggling now also because we don't have work. We just found a different avenue to go to keep ourselves entertained.
Yes. Got to keep ourselves busy during this time.
That's really what it is. I don't care if no one listens to this, to be dead honest, or my solo podcast. Like it helps that people do listen and they give us great feedback. But if this was just me by myself on a live stream on YouTube, I would just be chilling because it's fun,
Yeah, I agree. It is, one thing that I do too is, as you would know, I do music videos, and most of the time I don't even care, if those videos that I do, if they get 100 views, compared to some of the videos that me and you've done where they're, hitting like 10, 20,000 views, which still in the grand scheme of things aren't that much. But being able to make something like that and the process of doing it is really enjoyable. And just after it's finished and you really look at it and you're like, man, that shit was cool. Like I really made that. That's a way better feeling in itself than just feeling the gratitude of other people because of it. And it's, yes, of course, you feel the accomplishment when other people are telling you how good it is, and that's all great. But I think if you lose that love for that feeling of the process, then you'll never be able to fully make it, because then you're going to start shortcutting it, and then your quality is going to fall. And then you start worrying about things that really don't matter, and you start doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's like, it's something about being behind the production of something that it brings you so much value and like just a sense of accomplishment, even just when I'm like mixing other people's stuff or, making their vocals sound a little different than they wanted. And then hearing that final thing. And I'm like, dude, that song is like, it was good before, but now it's incredible. It's crisp. And there's those little stutter effects and these little things that, geeks like me are just like, how did they do that so cool? How did they get that panning in the headphones and stuff like that? And with podcasts, I feel like a different sense of pride and a different sense of joy in the sense that what I'm saying is just me. It's off the top of the head, and people have been sending me messages and they're just like, everything I think you're just saying perfectly. And you're dark and you're edgy about it. And I think it's great, but I never really try to be dark and edgy with my shit. I just speak like how I would with you on my podcast, and me and you talk about a little more philosophical stuff. And on my solo, it's more just kind of the news of the day and stuff like that. But there's a cool accomplishment that comes with not only entertaining others, but entertaining yourself and coming back the next time and saying, oh, this would have been a perfect joke to put right here, and these things that always just push you to be better, even if it's by yourself,
Yeah. And I know one thing, just kind of, diving into the arts of, whether it's making music or the music videos or simply just trying to draw something, you really gain an appreciation for a lot of things that we kind of take for granted. We listen to, people like to fucking shit on like SoundCloud rappers, like that kind of sound, you know what I mean? They like to shit on that, but at the end of the day, they're doing something that they're having fun with, and they fucking made it. And I guarantee most people who shit on it, they can't do the same thing. They can't capitalize on the interest that is in that kind of style of music.
Yeah.
There takes some kind of skill to do something. You're not just going up there and saying some bullshit. Now, it's debated sometimes that does happen, yes, but for the most part, right, there's at least something that goes into it, and you really do gain an appreciation for trying new things and realizing that it is hard to learn something and there is a process to it. And the whole point of life is to gain new knowledge and learn from those experiences and try to put that into other things.
Yeah. And just like with that, I may be listening to some of these, SoundCloud rappers, and I'm thinking to myself, like, is this really that hard to make? And, these guys aren't even trying and all that. And then I'll mess around and try to make something and I can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you realize, like, there is a time and there's a place for everything. Sometimes you want to listen to something dumb, something distorted, something crazy. And other times you want to listen to something that makes you think. And just like any other media, there's a time and a place for all of that. And just belittling someone else's creation, I won't call SoundCloud music or SoundCloud rappers art, because I don't see it as art. I see it as entertainment, which there's an art in entertaining people, but in a fundamental sense, they're not using different facets of English and grammar and, things that have multiple meanings and things, bars that really make you think, like, whoa, how did he come up with that? How does he mean 3 different things with that? That to me is an art. But someone else may see Lil Pump as art because he brings them a feeling of, I want to get up on the table and I want to destroy things around me, and this feels awesome, and people could say, you could say that about Nirvana. You could say that about grunge music. Like, I don't care what he's saying. I want to beat the shit out of someone because it would be fun.
Yeah.
So there's a weird emotional connection people have to different forms of different styles of art. It is art. I don't know why I said it's not art. It's their art,
I think like you said, any form of entertainment is going to have art in it from, it's going to take skill. Like, it's also, I think we take for granted too how much it takes to really put yourself out there like that in front of people to entertain. And one example I was wanting to say that before I really started like podcasting and making videos, there was one job that I really always thought was something I could do, and now I don't necessarily think that I could. Just like sport commentating. Whenever you're watching them, right? You're like, oh, he's literally just commentating on what's happening. Like, you can, as long as you know the rules and what's going on, you can do that. That's not true. Like, just doing like these podcasts, it's hard to maintain. Sometimes, just like imagine if you're watching a game for 3 hours, that game could be boring as fuck. I don't know if I could stay focused for that entire time. I don't know if I could say anything of, quality for an entire 3 hours, 4 hours. Would I be able to deal with the amount of pressure that comes in with having to commentate on, some of the biggest games that go on? Are you going to say something and then lose your job? Like, there's a lot of things that go into it. And of course, at the same time, you have to entertain the people. They have to enjoy what you're saying. They don't have to necessarily agree with what you're saying, but you have to say something that's respectable and knowledgeable And that takes time. That takes effort. It's not just something you can just do off the top.
Yeah, and going along with the sports analogy, you have to entertain people when nothing's going on. You,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
say when a pitcher's being substituted, oh, this pitcher over here, he comes from blah, 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 and this is how he got into the sport, and his dad was a coach for this team. And people kind of underestimate how much research these types of guys get into, and this is their life. They're not just, all right, well, he just threw an 87-mile-per-hour curveball. Thank you to Jiffy Lube for sponsoring today's show. It's much more than that. Maybe at like a local level, your local AAA team, maybe the guy is just doing it for fun, and he's like, okay, up to bat now, blah, blah, blah. But just like any other entertainment related avenue, you got to know your shit. If you don't know your shit, people are going to be, they're going to criticize you. You're going to get fired, So with every avenue comes a sense of your own integrity, that if I don't put on a show for these people, whether they acknowledge me or not, some people listen to stuff with the sound down, but a lot of people want to hear every little thing I'm saying, and every detail matters. And some guys are on their way to work their graveyard shift, and they're listening to me on the radio. If I don't explain this well enough for them, then they don't get to visualize this thing we're all going through together with me. And there's pressure in that too,
Yeah, definitely. You want to be able to, at least try to relate to everybody of different walks of life. And I think that's important as well, because then that allows you to have a fan base, right, that does have different perspectives. And you don't have to put yourself into a box of what you're going to do for entertainment, and you can kind of branch out. And I think that's important. And that's why a lot of people don't last that long in entertainment careers, because they put themselves too much into, whether it is like a music, right, where you have one style of rap that you can do and you can't do anything else. That diminishes your chance at certain features, that prevents from, you drop 3 albums and that third album sounds the same as the first one. Your fans are going to start getting a little tired of it. That's just the way humans are. And if it's, you just have to be able to branch out, because like, you say the AAA team, right? Let's say you're covering the AAA team. If you don't try to at least branch out to understand other teams, maybe understand the MLB, understand just certain broadcasting tips, if you're just comfortable with what you're doing, then you're never going to be able to branch out and expand.
Yep, exactly. Well said. What are you thinking? Hour 47? Not bad. Getting hungry.
You're getting hungry? You want to go until 2 hours?
Yeah, I got to take a little break to the potty.
All right.
Do you have to go?
All right. No, I'm good.
You're a crackhead. How do you do this?
I have a problem with staying still.
I just drink so much water. All right, entertain them for a couple minutes. 30 seconds. We'll go a little longer.
30-second pisser.
Bueno.
I was talking about nothing, and then I found a box of Cheez-Its in my room, so I started talking about Cheez-Its. Do you have any other flavors?
You ever tried Bamba?
Who?
Bamba?
What's that?
It's like this Israeli snack. It's like puffy Cheetos, but they're peanut butter.
So you support Israel?
Yes, absolutely. You want to see my bank account? I'll show you how much I get supported. Or I mean, how much I support them.
That I forget what'd you say it was called?
Bamba.
Bamba with the B?
Yeah. You probably had it at my house though, like the Bosnian version.
Maybe I have.
Smoky.
But I have heard of those, and they look good. I think I've seen a picture.
They schmack.
Does it look like a little puff?
Yeah.
Like that big? Okay.
Mm-hmm. You've had it for sure. But yeah, unironically, I stan Israel. You just got banned.
Oh.
Let's not get into it. I want people to know I have no resentment to any people.
Yes. No resentment to any people.
I'm skeptical of governments, but I'm skeptical of my own. So Don't get angry.
People.
You believe what?
Believe in the people.
Yeah,
I believe in
yeah,
people.
I really don't, but it's good that you do.
Believe in people, then I can't believe in anything.
What? Why are we still going? This is trash.
Well, think about it. If I can't believe in the people, right,
Mhm,
the people around me,
mhm.
then how can I expect anything around me to go right? I have to at least have some positive thoughts and be able to think that I can be safe in the environment that I am. Because I didn't fuck with anybody, then I'm gonna be fucking miserable. And some people might be fine with that, but I like to believe that most of the time, a person that I'm talking to, someone that I meet, they're on the good side, of my moral spectrum. You know, I gotta at least believe that if something bad comes up, most of the time they're gonna do the right thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I was gonna say, I don't really believe in the people, but I didn't know the context you were saying it in. Do I believe most people won't take the wallet out of my pocket? Yes, but some people will. But I don't believe
Yes.
in the people in the sense that a lot of people still are not up to the level of consciousness that I believe is needed for us to move forward as a collective of, a nation or a community. But I don't blame people for that. I blame all of the institutions they've been kind of brainwashed to take their word for. It's not people's fault. It's, narratives and power and the money that goes into putting into your brain what you should be believing.
Yeah.
But that
And then,
doesn't mean,
that's
yeah, go
kind of
ahead.
going
Sorry,
into
sorry.
that's kind of what I'm going in, what I'm saying is that I think for the most part people are good. It's just that there are things that influence them to maybe do things otherwise.
True.
How has your sleep schedule been?
It's not bad. I sleep between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. usually. So,
6 hours, that's it?
no, I'm saying I go to sleep between those hours.
Oh,
So it's pretty
Jesus.
good. Nah, I'm just playing. I can't stay up past like 11:30. I'm just becoming an old man. I can't do it.
I used to be that way, but since this has started, I've been starting to like every week, like the first week. So I usually go to bed like 10:30. I'm more of a morning person as of recently, but
Mm.
since this has started every week, I've been just going to bed later. This whole week, I've been pretty much hitting the bed like 1 a.m. I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to do that. I'll be in bed probably like 11:30,
Right.
but
No, I'm the same way with that. I just mean I have to be laying down in my bed by 11:30ish, but
okay.
I don't fall asleep easily at all. And but I usually wake up remotely early, at least compared to most people. The most I'll ever sleep in is like 7:30.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I know some people are like, you're a psychopath, but I like it. I like to, you know, it's nice to be up early just because outside it's nice and pretty and
Yeah,
it's
it's
very
cooler, not as
relaxed.
hot.
Yeah. And you can put your fireplace on if you have one and drink a coffee and relax. I think that's like a very important time for me personally is the
I
early
agree.
morning.
It's nice too when you go out and there's not that many people out
Exactly.
and you can just do what you got to do. There's not You're not taking in all this information all at once. What the fuck is he gonna do? What the fuck is she doing? You're able to kind of just go about your day. And I will say though, one thing I don't like about getting up early is I like to go get some coffee as soon as I wake up. So if I'm going to coffee shop, that's of course when they're the busiest.
Right. Right. On weekdays, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I like to be up before everybody else.
Hmm.
It kind of eliminates all the traffic. And then you don't have to worry about all the bullshit. You don't have to worry about people coughing in your face.
At least when things were normal, yeah. But now I go on the freeway at like 9:30 a.m. and there's like 3 cars. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is weird. Or even worse, 8:30. That's like crunch time in SAC when things were normal. 8:30 in the morning, it's like you're not moving on the freeway.
7:30
Now,
to 8:30.
yeah, now it's like wide open, and it's weird, but I don't know. I feel like if I wake up early, I'm still kind of going with the system I was in before. But before all this started, I was waking up at 5:30, 5:45, but that's because I had, to go to work. But now I'm just taking it slow. I'll chill out at night, watch a show, and then lay down for a while,
I don't know if you believe in such, like, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily like spiritual things or whatnot, but one thing that I have thought about is, with everybody staying inside, there are less cars on the road, there are less people in the rivers, and we're starting to see all the animals coming out. Maybe some plants are now growing that wouldn't necessarily grow before. It seems as if Earth is coming out again. There's been a thought in my head that maybe Earth itself there is maybe stuff that we don't know about it just yet. And it could possibly, I wouldn't necessarily say feel, but it be aware that it's healthier when we're not out and about doing things like this. And maybe it can continue to push forward disasters or whatnot, because, climate change, that could be something that we're doing to it. And it could be, we don't know. Earth could be somewhat aware of that. And as a result, it's kind of like how when we're sick, right, we get a fever and we want to kill it. So who's to say that couldn't possibly happen with Earth?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I'm not very spiritual at all, but I'm around people who are very in tune, with the planet or God or whatever it is that you believe in, or whatever it is that you believe is the higher power. I believe that there is a God, at least, and people get offended at like creation, God's creations, but it's like, just like you said, the earth is doing this. Someone could just say God is helping the earth do this, or whatever. But I don't believe in I don't follow any doctrine per se. But it's very apparent that once we took a little break with manufacturing plastic shit and dumping things in bodies of water and, messing or contaminating soil, that the earth will naturally rebuild itself in a much healthier way. And that is also something good that can come out of this disastrous situation. But will we be conscious of that fact? Will we be? I don't either. But it'd be nice to think that maybe people will see this and they'll say, maybe we should start carpooling to work. Maybe we should minimize as much as we can our carbon footprint. But, not to say that the everyday person is destroying the earth, because I don't think that. But it is something to believe that, okay, maybe we should try our hardest as normal people to take care of this place, because it's not going anywhere. And as we see, ironically, the less we're a part of it, the better it is. But don't get me wrong, I'm not into population control and Bill Gates shit like that. I'm into a conscious group of people understanding as a collective that, sure, I may not like your politics, I may not like what you stand for, what you believe in, but one thing we can all get behind is conservation work. I'm not an environmentalist, I'm a conservationist, because I believe that the more we take care of the earth, the more the earth will take care of us. I believe in upholding the forest, not just letting things run rampant. I believe in trimming trees and cutting down things that could possibly start another fire. That's the difference between me and some crazy, wacky environmentalist person. I believe that it's also our job to take care of the earth.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than be completely out of it and less people the better and blah blah blah. It's like, yes, of course that does matter how many people are on Earth, but to make a conscious decision and say we're going to minimize our damage as much as possible, I think that's a better way to look at things.
Yeah. And going with what I said too, I'm not saying that I necessarily believe that. I'm just always about the mindset that there's probably things that, I mean, there are things out there that we don't know. And I'm always open-minded to, certain things happening because we don't know how a planet, let's say, would react to the organisms living on it, destroying it. How would we know that? We wouldn't know that. And just, just a little bit of an interesting thought. And we make movies about it all the time. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much more aware some of us will be of the environment after something like this, because it is very evident that we are depriving ourselves of a really nurturing environment. It's nice to have, fish in our rivers that are feeling free. They can swim around. They want to have their eggs there. The animals, they feel safe. They don't have to necessarily sprint away from us every time they see us and go and run in the street and get hit by a car. Like, I don't know if that's the best way to live on this planet. So, I'm just saying, got to keep open-minded, certain things like that.
Along with that, just kind of going off the higher consciousness thing I was saying is that we need to see that these things don't just need us, we need them. And it's important for us to also uphold them. I like fish. I like catching fish. I like eating fish. I won't have that ability if the water is so polluted that they're all dying and they can't reproduce. So as a conservationist, I have to say, I'm going to follow the rules of how many of this fish I can catch. This is something where a lot of people differ from me in my philosophical circle with the no regulation shit and all that. But wildlife regulation is more important than anything to me. I'm not going to keep a striper that's under the size limit. I'm not going to overcatch. I'm not going to go over my limit because I need these fish to keep repopulating so I can come back as much as I want to get my limit and to be able to feed myself with this like beauty that has been given to me, And just like we need them, they need us. Populations can't go out of control too much. Otherwise, that brings a lot of effects to other life cycles. Don't just be so radical on either part. Don't say like fuck them, we're humans and we're better. We're better because we have consciousness. And I'll admit that we're humans and we are better in the objective sense that we offer more beings. Those things don't mean nothing to you. You need algae, We need water. We need these essential things. And I think more than just shaming people, like a lot of elites tend to do when it comes to environmentalism, raising people's mindset and letting people know that these are beautiful beings and you can appreciate them. You're not a horrible person for hunting animals. I think people who hunt animals are more brave. People who are going out and, just buying all these animals from factory farms and things like that. I think it takes love to go and to capture something that you find majestic and beautiful. And have for animals is something that should be shared, and it shouldn't be as it is in a lot of these types of social circles.
I find it kind of funny that we treat so much of our products and everything that we use, supplies, with the mindset of supply and demand, but yet we don't necessarily think that way about animals. Like you said, you don't want to overfish because you do that, you're not going to have any fish to fish later on. And, it's the same thing with farmers, right? They try to avoid using the same soil over and over again because they know if they do that, they're not going to be able to use it ever again. And, say like you have farm animals, you need to also be concerned about the supply of, food that they eat, because then if they can't eat, then you can't fucking eat. And I think that's a lot of things that we don't think about. There's a cycle to this shit, and we need to appreciate those cycles.
And we see things as so disposable,
Yes.
Oh, that car broke down, whatever, I'll just go get a new car. Oh, that's a bad batch of eggs, I'll go get a new batch of eggs. But everything has a process to it,
Mm-hmm.
and just having a understanding of these things, it actually does more than a lot of people think. Being conscious of the fact that the less I drive, the better it is. Maybe I don't need to drive my pickup everywhere. Maybe I can just, get
Fly.
a, you know, ride a bike. Not to mention the incredible health benefits you get to, being more
Yeah.
conscious about these things. And that's why Teddy Roosevelt is the best president to ever live. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thank you for the national parks, Teddy. You're the man.
Yeah, it is crazy that there are people who are against national
Yeah,
parks.
I, that's communist bullshit. It's like, I'd rather have some communist bullshit than some corporation coming in and stripping the natural beauty of our planet in every single
Well, see,
acre of the
and I
land.
hate that that's some communist bullshit shit. I hate that because they all like there has never once ever been a system that has worked where you are 100% from the very smallest details that one system. You always have to implement other shit. And it's good to do that because, like we've been talking about this whole podcast, things don't work sometimes and you have to be able to fix those. So, yeah, we should take the best ideas from everybody, and that's how you take and create the best system.
Yeah. I'd love to do maybe in our next show or two some sort of historical analysis of Teddy Roosevelt, because I think he's very underrated and I know a lot about that man that I think maybe our viewers would really appreciate.
He's a
So
bad motherfucker, man.
he's badass, dude. And what else? What was I gonna say? I'm drawing a blank, but whatever.
There
I
was, I know a story with him that I heard where he literally took a break from being president for like 2 months just for him to go hunt. Is that a real thing that happened?
I think it's a true story. Yeah. Um, I think there's records of it that I can send over to you in a little bit. But yeah, the man he played no games, and yeah, like you were saying. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Just the whole idea of conservative, the philosophy. I would consider myself conservative in many ways, especially when it comes to the natural world. What is more conservative than conserving natural beauty? And I've read a
Yeah.
lot of old philosophy of objective beauty, things that all people can see as miraculous. When you see a waterfall that's so gorgeous, that's objective beauty. That's something it would be very hard for you to find someone that would say, I'm not really not interested, So maybe in our next show or two we can get into some of my more philosophical beliefs as well as yours. So we got to start
Okay. Yeah,
brainstorming some topics.
definitely. It is interesting though that you'll find there are, quite a few conservatives that would rather, support the corporations to build a fucking huge building in an area of wildlife. So that's like you just said, how you being conservative, you should want to conserve what's going on.
Yeah.
It
Conservatives
is
don't
interesting
conserve
how it's
anything.
conflicted. Yeah.
There used to be an actual faction of the Republican Party that was conservative, and you know what they conserved? Conserving workers' rights, conserving unions, conserving natural beauty, conserving religion and tradition and, morality, in the sense that, we're we're all God's children. That's what more religious people will say. And I think that whether you're a Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I may not even necessarily follow these tenets to, whether it's the Quran, whether it's the Bible. I don't follow those tenets to, the period, so to speak. But there is beauty in these old ideas as well. And incorporating these old ideas and these newer ideas, that can change the world. And we maybe, as some more younger people get into government and they sort of understand that these things that me and you speak of often, things will change. But, I pray to see that day. I hope that day comes, because where we're going now, I don't see a lot of, progress, and, not in a progressive sense, again, whatever.
Fucking
and the progressive
socialist,
era.
progressive fucking bitch.
I know. What is up with fusing making a fusion of all these titles? These labels mean nothing. Like, you're a progressive,
and a lot of the times
communist.
They're completely different things.
Yeah. Like, the progressive era was a great era in America. And, a lot of conservatives won't admit that.
Shit like the Industrial Revolution. That is progression.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's one of the biggest times in American history.
Yeah.
Fucking
it's
the technology boom. That's progression. And then people will just be like, you're a progressive for wanting to have better technology. What?
Yeah, kind of. I don't think we should all go back to being agrarian farmers. Sure, that would be
Amish, bro.
Yeah, that would be. There's pros to that as well. Smoking doinks in Amish. But can we just start to analyze things for pros and cons and putting them together for the benefit of the people? Okay, I guess not.
Fuck it, we just have to make sure everybody's miserable, and then that way they will feel so bad about themselves. The only way they can make themselves feel better is spend their money on our products.
Boom, you got it. Consumerism 101.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Please clap.
Please clap.
Jeb Bush, do you remember that? That was the best.
All right, should we end it right there?
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up. Hit that outro.
Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. This is your radio voice send-off. I am Jameson. That is Denny V. Please check out his podcast, the Uncivil Discourse podcast. I said that correctly, right?
That was perfect. Should I end it?
And then also, if you have not yet, check out our other work that we've done on the Food for Thoughts podcast channel. And also check out my channel. I want to get to the point to where we're saying 15 channels and we can just prolong the very last 15 minutes of the podcast for ads, strictly just for us. Anyways, guys, thank you so much.
Pluggings.
Yes, shameless plugging. Thank you for watching. Please, if you are really listening, I want to hear your voices. I want to see what you believe. Let's have a discussion and then give us more topics to talk about the next time that we have a podcast. Because as you could see towards last half, we were kind of lagging there a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. So we'll be a little bit more prepared next time. But, I still think it was a lot of fun. It was very successful. And Denny, sir, I appreciate you having these conversations with me. It gives me something to do.
Likewise, my friend. Until next time.
Have a good one, guys.